It doesn't matter, man. It's all good.
Hey Scott, how's it going? It's been like 3 weeks. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. It has been a while. I feel like it's like half the season has gone by since the last time we did a podcast almost.
Yeah, and I am not going to hate on you, but I know you've been out of fantasy football mode and more into professional football mode for like probably the last 3 or 4 weeks after you were statistically eliminated. But you're still playing for something. You're still good to go. But how have you been? How's the last 3 weeks been?
Last 3 weeks have been good. I went to Australia to my stepbrother's wedding,
Oh
so that was really
yeah,
nice. Learned a lot about what not to do in travel situations, so that was nice.
yeah.
And made it back just in time for Thanksgiving and caught the flu, so that was nice.
Ooh.
Uh, yeah, how have your last couple of weeks
Well,
been?
we missed you at Friendsgiving. You're usually an attendant there, and you usually bring some delicious dishes and are a mighty uh, Pictionary opponent. So maybe next year you can show up as long as you're not traveling abroad, which it seems you did a lot this year. I think you is that your second trip this year or abroad?
Yeah,
Well,
this year,
obviously
yeah,
the wedding.
yeah, we just
I
went to the
I was
wedding in
thinking
New Mexico. Yeah.
I was thinking
Um,
Australia. I feel like you've been to Australia a few times in the past couple of years.
yeah. This is, I guess, in the past 10 years, I've maybe been there 5 times, maybe half a dozen times. So, it's a great place to visit. Really is. Just I recommend business class or first class when you're
Ah,
flying.
if you're gonna
Yeah,
go that far.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
I,
really do.
I
But
flew first class for the first time in my life about a month ago and when I went to Utah. And
oh, nice.
I know. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I could fly any other way. Like
Right? You
this is
get on
pretty
the
nice.
plane first, you're drinking a
Yeah.
glass of champagne while everybody else is slugging on like a bunch of peasants, and you're just like, oh, yes, this is a good life.
I think it's just comfort and leg room, man. Like the comfort, the
Yeah.
leg room, the flight goes by faster. I didn't hate it. And so yeah, it's something I gotta definitely think about on my trips to Vegas and whatnot. But yeah,
Well, I
all
think
right.
next trip to think about might be the next year's draft. I mean, I don't know where people are thinking, but I'm pretty excited because I'm over this year. Let's say that.
I'm just excited, and I always look forward to the next Gridiron draft, but I am excited not to have to head it up, probably not to have to be responsible for all that. It's a load of work. It is, and I would love for somebody to tell me where to go, what time, and I will be there with my notes ready to go to draft another mediocre team next year in August. So. But
Can't
anyway,
wait.
let's talk about this year. I know. Let's talk about this year. Let's talk about 2022. And here's what we're gonna do, guys. We've never done this before, but we have no notes about today's podcast. We are literally just shooting from the hip and having a discussion about the gridiron teams from top to bottom, where they're at right now, what they did wrong, what we think about the rest of the season outlook, just general thoughts, and yeah, we'll go from there. You ready for this, Scott?
Oh, I'm ready.
All right, we'll start with Scott Hedeman. Um, number one in the league, has been number one for quite a bit. I think 2 or 3 weeks, but definitely has been one of the more dominant teams throughout the year. Tell me, where do you think he ends up? What do you think of his team now? Just give me your general thoughts on Scott Hedeman's team.
I mean, I know that it's awful but we're gonna say it that normally number one seeds in our league do not win the championship
Yeah.
going into the playoffs. But when you look at his team, I really can't see anybody beating him unless, like, just, both of his quarterbacks have just bad weather games and, score under 10 points because with Mahomes to Kelsey and Tua to Waddle, I mean, like those two stack and jacks right there beat probably all the bottom half teams right there. And he just kind of needs the rest of his team to show up. And with Ayuk and a Buffalo receiver and McKenzie, you gave Josh Jacobs for nickels on the dollar, Joe Mixon even. He's going to show up almost every week. And when you look at what he drafted, he really didn't move very far from what he drafted. He drafted Mahomes and Tua and Kelsey and Waddle. he drafted a lot of his pillars. So he made some trades in the season to fortify other parts of his team. But I mean, all year long, if you look at his schedule, he didn't score under 150, but a couple of times, and he was over 200 multiple times. So I would think that his team would win, other than the curse of the first seed, and just we've seen some wild things in playoffs.
We have it. So if you had to place a bet, I know you're not really a gambling guy, but if you had to place a bet on who would win the championship, would this be your number one? And you don't have to say who the number one is
Yeah,
right now. This would be your number one.
right now, yeah, because it's the first team we've looked at.
Yeah, that makes it
But
pretty obvious.
but I mean, he does have a really solid team. It's hard to bet against him any given week, really, unless
Mhm.
they just really they have some bad weather games coming up, basically.
Right. This is what I'm going to say about Scott's team. This is probably the most put together team as a whole that you really didn't have to touch all year. He really hasn't had any injuries that he's had to weather throughout the year. Okay, so
Must
Mahomes,
be nice.
it is, and that's great. But he hasn't used barely any moves. He's used half of his moves. Mahomes and Tua tags, Waddle. I know he's acquired Ayuk and Jacobs throughout the season, but and I think he might have actually traded for Mixon. Um, Yeah, he did. But other than that,
Mhm.
Kelsey, I mean, he's really, honestly, he had 1 week where he revamped his defense all in once. I mean, this is a really, really put together team. And this has got to be one of the best drafts that we've ever seen in the gridiron. Literally put together from top to bottom and not touched for 13 weeks. Uh, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? Because what we've seen in the past is if you're going to win the Gridiron Championship, you got to find those players who get hot from weeks 12 to 17. So he hasn't really done that. Literally, these players have to play like they have for the first 13 weeks against Patrick Mahomes against anybody, and Tua tags Kelsey. I think that we can confidently say that they're going to put up a battle for these last 3 weeks. However, or 4 weeks. However, somebody who is prospectively going to get eighth place, I've looked ahead. Go look at week 15 for Hedman's team and the matchups. You will see nightmare matchups. Now, I know this team is great. Okay. This team is awesome. But you do not want, I mean, Patrick Mahomes against Houston, as much as you want to down on Houston, as much as you want to say Houston sucks, as they do, they're the worst team. They're one of the first teams eliminated from playoff contention. Their pass defense hasn't really been that bad. Okay. They've been run all over, but their pass defense, fourth fewest points to QBs, and against receivers, they've really done a really good job on the back end. Okay. When you're going into Buffalo, at Tua Tags is in December, that's not a great place to play. And that's what Tua Tags is doing. He's got Jacobs against New England, who's one of the top 10 teams, the third best against running backs against Jacobs. I'm just saying, we always say that one topples. One of the most important things that you need to do throughout the year is look at these playoff schedules, right? Now, when you're looking and drafting Patrick Mahomes, who plays Houston first week of the playoffs, of course, you're going to be like, "Meh, meh, meh," it's not a big deal. I'm just saying, this could be somebody that could be a surprise knockoff in the first week just because he's got some terrible, terrible matchups. Um, I think that Scott's obviously the team that nobody wants to face in the playoffs, but give some hope for whoever gets that eighth seed, which could be a number of people. All right, let's move on to number 2 here, the Maestro. And this guy was last place last year. I mean, as much shame as the Gridiron has ever thrown on somebody throughout a year, we threw at Michael last year. So I guess he is a bit deserving of getting one of these high seeds. Tell me what you think of Michael.
He's got a team that of a lot of players that people didn't necessarily know how well they're going to do this year. Rogers with no wide receivers. He's come on late because Meister had kind of a tough start. He didn't start off great, but he came back strong. So he lost 3 out of his first 4, but then went on what, an 8-game winning streak. Like that's pretty amazing. So he righted his ship early on, which was kind of huge with some trades. Um, he's really kind of led by his quarterbacks and wide receivers between Dak Prescott and Rodgers. Um, they've got pretty decent matchups in first week of playoffs. I love Jamar Chase coming back off an injury. If he can be anything close to what he was, he's going to be a beast again. Um, I I like his team. I don't love it though. Um, I could see him doing well, but I don't see him winning the ship with this bunch of baboons here.
I really like Michael's team. I think I got a text from an undisclosed Gridiron member a few weeks ago saying, "Did Michael just pick up the league winner at wide receiver?" And I think he was referring to Christian Watson. Um, Christian Watson has really blown up for the last 4 or 5 weeks. Probably looking at
Yeah.
somebody who we can confidently draft next year in the second or third round. Honestly, um, the only thing that I see there, and I know we've seen a little bit of Jordan Love and Christian Watson play already, but if they shut down Aaron Rodgers for the rest of the season, which is something they could possibly do if Green Bay falls out of contention, Jordan Love doesn't give me as much confidence in Christian Watson as Aaron Rodgers might have. I think that not only does Christian Watson kind of uh, lose that dynamic uh, air yards gained ability, but also Green Bay's game plan changes to more of a run attack than the pass attack with Jordan Love, a more balanced attack. I know that that's what Green Bay was earlier in the season, but Jordan Love gives them a little bit more of a uh, balanced attack, maybe something on the ground in the air. So I don't know if Christian Watson is the game winner. I don't know if he's 2021's Amon St. Brown that brought me a championship last year, but it's definitely good to have. Okay. I really, really, really like his receivers, Jamar Chase, Juju Smith-Schuster, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and Christian
Mhm.
Watson. I mean, at this point, do you bench Schuster? Do you bench Peoples-Jones? He's got a plethora of depth on that team. He's got even got Kadarius Toney who's coming back this week. So, um, yeah, as long as this team doesn't have any bye weeks, I'll be glad that he's not in my bracket coming up if I make the plays.
The only thing is I will say, okay, so week 15, he does have matchups in fairly warm weather areas. It just, you have to realize too that, he's run by his wide receivers and quarterbacks here. So if say he gets by week 1 of playoffs, I'm worried about him, like, him coming into cold weather and all passing attacks being hindered by that essentially. Because for instance, week 16, he's got Dak versus Philly. He's got Juju versus Seattle. He's got at New England for Jamar Chase. He's got not his matchups don't go very well. And like I said, the further you get into December, the worse the weather is going to get. So that's my main concern with this team. He does have a great team. Like I said, he's got a plethora of wide receivers to choose from that could put up a flurry of points at any moment.
Yeah. No, I mean, I fear this team more than I fear Hedman's team. And the reasoning is just because of uh, the balance of his team. I think he has an immensely better defense than Hedman does. And you know how I am with defense. Love IDP. I think IDP is definitely a game changer when it comes to these playoffs. Ladarius Sneed, Drew Tranquil, those are stars. Those are people who are going to get some work and put up some points. So again, really happy that he's not going to be in my bracket. I think that this could be the year of the Michael. I really think that if there's somebody that's going to put up numbers in the playoffs and go far, it's going to be him. So,
Did he have
um,
a daughter this year?
yes, he did.
Oh, well, okay. I might have to put some money on Michael too.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about Notorious.
Notorious.
He's really dropped off. I mean,
Yeah, ever since you traded him to Deshaun Watson for Jalen Hurts, that
let's
was the
talk
worst
about
fucking
that.
trade I've ever
Let's
heard.
talk about that. Go
That
go
was a
ahead.
terrible
Go off.
trade. That was a terrible. That should have been vetoed. Honestly,
Mm,
I wasn't awake enough during that. That honestly should have been vetoed. That was not a fair trade at all. To
listen,
think that Deshaun Watson was going to come back and like be anything close to what he was after not playing football for 2 years, while Jalen Hurts is literally in the middle of an MVP like season. So like it was a terrible trade. I don't know if you just took advantage of his good nature or he was drunk or what, but I mean, looking at his team, like if you were to put Jalen Hurts in here, it's a pretty good team. But with Sean Watson, it's just, I mean, it really shouldn't even really be in the playoffs. Honestly, he's got the rest of his team's okay with Mike Evans and Aaron Jones and Andy Dalton. Like, really? Like, he's got Pittman on the bench. Michael Pittman's pretty good. But, like, it's really the rest of it's like just putting up enough points. I feel like Hurts was really the leader of his team. And when that happened, it just his team doesn't even look like a playoff team to me anymore.
oh, it definitely looks like a playoff team. I mean, there's the
Yeah.
receiver tree. He has a receiver trio. Garrett Wilson's one of the hottest receivers in the NFL right now. Um, Mike Evans has really underplayed, but again, it's Mike Evans, number one receiver on that team, and he's going to get pelleted with targets just over and over. He has to decide every week between Mike Williams and Michael Pittman Jr., who he traded for, and that's what he wanted, that depth after he lost Cooper Kupp. So that's the thing. The reasoning in Michael or in Danny's mind was that if Deshaun
The
Watson
receivers
plays like a
suck.
not really on
I'm
paper.
sorry. I'm just looking at his receivers right now. Mike Williams hasn't done shit in weeks, so you really can't expect that much from him. Mike Evans hasn't gotten double points in over 6 weeks. And then your best receiver is a Jets wide receiver. I'm not putting money in the bank for that. I'd rather fucking send him home. Like that's not good, man. Michael Pittman Jr., I guess, is great, but he could still have bad weeks because the Colts offense sucks. It really does. And you're just hoping that he shoulders out his corner and gets a touchdown each week. That's about it. And they lose anyways because they suck.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It looks awful. Please go ahead with the reasoning. I'm sure it's got to be good. It's got to be out
If
there and
if
quite.
Deshaun Watson plays as like a 10 through 15 quarterback, ranked 10 through 15 in the NFL, which is very reasonable for somebody who used to be a top five quarterback. Okay. Whether you like the Browns or you think Deshaun Watson, what he did was terrible or whatever, thinking that he's going to play on a weekly basis of a 10 to 15 QB1,
Why
that's
would you think that? Why would that? That's not a logical thought process at all. He hasn't played football in 2 years, and he's on a brand new team, and that brand new team is the fucking Browns. So like, it's not like he went from a situation and went like higher up and got a better situation. No, he might as well have dug a hole, take a dump in it, finger it, and then lay his fucking face in it. That's where he's starting. That's shit. Jalen Hurts is the number three quarterback this year. Why would he trade the number three quarterback right now for someone that maybe has potential to possibly not go to jail for being such a cunt? Like that's not a good trade. There's no logical thought process of that being a good trade other than you got Jalen Hurts and you think it's a good trade.
I
That's
don't
it.
think it's good. I think obviously I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think my it made my team better. So I made a trade based
Yeah,
on
anybody would have done that trade.
yeah.
Made
So
your team better. Should have been vetoed. Like I said, it should have been fucking
you
vetoed.
can't veto any. That's not a
Yeah,
no. The
veto
third
it.
place. It's a veto based on the first place
Based on the
team at the
fact
time.
that he does not know what he is doing.
He was
That
first
he
in
he is
place.
not he is not fit to manage his own team. We will assign
Ooh.
you a co-manager, and
Oh.
from there on, all trades need to go through both managers
So one of the
because
things,
that was just absurd.
absolutely, Danny is absolutely going to listen to this, and he's going to be very upset. I feel like he's going to be
I don't
very,
think any of them listen to
uh,
it.
I think he's going to be very slighted at the fact that you think that he is an unfit manager because of a trade that he made. And honestly, it's not
Hurts
an
for
egregious
Watson.
trade.
Hurts for Watson. It's an
It
egregious
was Michael
trade.
Pittman Jr. Michael Pittman Jr. was in the trade. It wasn't a straight up Hurts for Watson. It was Michael Pittman Jr., who a lot of people think would be a top 10 wide receiver. It was him balancing his team out,
Would,
and he
but
thought,
he's not. Essentially, that what you're saying that he's not a top 10 receiver, and he hasn't been because he has shit quarterback thrown to him. So that doesn't really change anything.
I think judgment needs to come after the season's over, right?
After we see how terrible Watson
If
finishes.
Danny can't make it out of the first round or has just a terrible, whatever, and Hurts just tears up the playoffs, then you're going to say, Danny, that was a moronic move. And he even will tell you that was a moronic
But
move. But we
we're,
cannot say that it's terrible right now. When he was in first place, he suffered two season-ending injuries from his star
why would
tight
you?
end and star wide receiver in the 1 week, and he decided to bounce his team out. You can't.
Jalen Hurts has 341 points. He traded
He,
him for a quarterback with
Danny
4 points,
Danny doesn't need
four.
wins. Yeah, after he played for 1 week,
Yeah,
Danny didn't need
not in the
wins.
near future because he ain't gonna get any.
There's two things. Danny didn't need wins. He had clinched the playoffs, and he didn't want number one seed. Danny's going to have one of the easiest paths to the championship now for doing that. Just throwing that out there, and we'll talk
He's
about
gonna
that in a
need
little
the
bit.
easiest path because his team is crap now. So
Well, I I think Danny did a fine job of drafting. Obviously, we can agree on that. I think that he put together a really, really good team. And it just so happened 2 or 3 weeks ago, it absolutely, like a house of cards, fell down. Okay. It was a, like one of the worst injury weeks for any team I've ever seen. It was terrible. Uh, and, you're forced at that point to try to make some moves. He has. And he's really honestly just given these teams, these last 4 or 5 teams that he's played, wins. He's just bent over, and he knew he was going to make the playoffs. He knew he was going to go in. So we'll see. I mean, this is a strategy we really honestly have never seen. Okay, I make the playoffs early. I'm 8-1, 8-2. I'm literally just going to tank the rest of the year because my team just got dismantled. He's got 6 buys by pretty prominent people that he has on his team in week 14. Like, we'll see if this works for him. But Danny, I'm not going to judge you until I see how you do in the playoffs. No pressure. No pressure.
I'm judging you.
I know. And the whole league is judging actually as well. Let's talk about a fun one. Fupa Slayer.
This was a surprise for sure. I did not think his team was going to do this well at all.
I'm not surprised, but go ahead. You let me know what you think.
I mean, really, it's led by his quarterbacks and wide receivers again. Eckler, excuse me. Eckler
Can
is
we talk about
well,
how
he's
he got this
surprised.
team drafted for him, first of all?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay, I mean, this so he drafted Lamar Jackson, so we can give him Lamar Jackson, right?
Yeah,
And
I think
then
he
the
did the first
rest,
two.
the rest are kind of misfits, right? They're kind of like
Yeah.
this was a highest ranked person, but nobody else wanted to
Mm.
pick him at that spot, right?
Or there were times where there was a higher ranked person. We went down a little bit because we didn't want to take someone that someone actually wanted. But somehow every time we like scroll down a little bit, usually be like Trevor, would be like, "Oh, I wanted that guy," and we're like, "We thought he was crap."
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, but you be like when you're in the draft room and we're all drafting, if you draft somebody and I'll be up on the podium, somebody will be like, "Oh man, Derek Carr gets drafted." Oh God, like really? You thought he was good? Like everybody has different thoughts. If we all had the same thoughts of who's good and who's not, then this league would not even be fun. It's fun because of the separate thoughts that we have of who's good and who's not. But regardless, he drafted Eckler and Chubb. Is there any running back in fantasy not that's more unsexy than Chubb? Now he traded away Chubb 2 weeks ago, but he's here. He's here in the playoffs because of Chubb and Eckler,
mm,
right? And Lamar Jackson
yeah,
playing decent.
yeah.
So go ahead, do your thing.
No, I mean he didn't draft Eckler. He must have traded for him later on, but he did draft Chubb. And like you said, he's here because of them really. And Lamar Jackson having crazy games throughout the season. That's you can kind of link those up with his wins a lot of times. Um, but he's kind of scraped together a decent season, surprisingly. Uh, I don't know how he's going to do in the playoffs. I think it really comes down to Eckler now because, like you said, he traded away Chubb because Eckler can have 10 points or 30 points. I just feel like it's always a coin flip with him basically. Um, I,
He traded for Eckler
it,
before the season started.
oh, before the season started. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
He
Um,
traded Daniel Jones, Brandon Cooks, and Saquon for
he's going to be
Eckler,
in. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Eckler, Carter, and Ayuk. But go on.
Well, that's a pretty good trade. I was gonna say he's gonna be in big trouble if Lamar Jackson can't come back for the playoffs for him, though, and he has to start Desmond Ritter because I don't think that's gonna be pretty at all. Because Lamar Jackson could be out anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, and if it's anything more than one, then he might be in big trouble.
He's been out of moves for going on like 2 weeks now.
I forgot about that. That is hilarious.
He has no moves. If this game, final game, meant anything to him, he would be out of the playoffs. But he's squeaked out wins. In fact, three
Yeah,
in a row.
yeah, squeaked exactly.
So I think that he deserves to be here, but a lot of the reason why he deserves to be there is because when everybody else looked left on some of these people that were drafted, Duvernay had a great early year. Chubb had a great early
Mhm.
year. Mariota really did play out of his shoes on some of these weeks. Um,
Shockingly, yeah.
Shockingly, AJ Brown was really good value. Christian Kirk was really good value. Some of his defense, Nick Bolton was drafted for him. That was super value. I think, good Lord, I'm going to draft Nick Bolton in like the fourth round next year. I love Nick Bolton. Um, but the thing is, John tried. John had a really good team, but he tried desperately all year to hit that home run with a backup quarterback or
Hmm.
with somebody. I would love to go back and count how many times he tried to snake people and it failed. Had to have been like 7 or 8 of his moves where he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna pick up that backup," and then the guy trots back on the field. He's like, "Oh, all right." Like he tried really, really hard to do that, and he did. I mean, he's got Darnold, right? Who's starting for him this week.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
got Ritter, who is filling in for Mariota now. I mean, it worked to a certain extent, but he was desperate on picking up these backups, picking up people he thought he had value, and trying to trade them
Hmm.
away. And it didn't quite work out like he wanted. He didn't get that huge piece that you need to like win a championship by adding on to a great team. His team's great. Love the receivers. If Lamar is healthy,
Hmm.
he can play with Lamar and Ritter. I have no problem with Lamar, Ritter, three good receivers, Eckler, and Gibson, I guess. Whew, it's kind of rough. And Gibson, and then Andrews. Even though Andrews really hasn't shown that he's 100% healthy in the last 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, his team's okay. I think it's one of the weaker teams in the playoffs. So I don't think this is year. I don't
Hmm.
think we have to worry about having one of those years where somebody got their team drafted for them and they win the Gridiron. That's not going to happen.
No, I don't think that's going to be. I think some crazy circumstances would have to occur for that to happen.
Right. That's not going to happen. So we don't have to worry about that. But a good year by John. I mean, he put together a
Yeah.
really good team. It was a good effort. I know he didn't draft it. He'll draft it next year. And yeah, good job. Let's go to number 5. Neil. Neil's gonna be listening. He's gonna
Oh,
have to. He's
Disco
gonna
Lemonade.
he's gonna dissect everything, every word we say. Go ahead. What do you think of Neil's team?
He's got a fairly like solid all around team. Like, he's got not great quarterbacks, but he's got good quarterbacks. They, put up enough each week. In Brady and Daniel Jones. He's got pretty good wide receivers, not amazing. DK hasn't had the best year, but he's still very solid. Jacoby Myers is okay, every once in a while. He's Christian McCaffrey was, I mean, that was kind of the big move for him getting Christian McCaffrey to move over to San Francisco because that was huge for his point totals every week. That's that's really going to be his forefront because I think a lot of his team, like I said, is pretty consistent. Christian McCaffrey is really a difference maker of whether he's going to have a big week or not. Usually, I really wish he has Pat Fryermuth at tight end. I really wish he'd get a little more involved in the offense, but we'll see. I mean, he hasn't really been his first year with Ben. He was amazing in the red zone because he has great hands. And really just hasn't gotten the looks in the red zone this year, unfortunately, with Kenny Pickett under center. I do like his defense too, pretty solid with
Who is getting
Warner and
looks in the red
Singleton.
zone? Deontay Johnson, who just drops every fucking pass.
No, it just depends on who complains that week. So it was Pickett for a minute, then Deontay
Pickett's
Johnson
complaining,
complained. No, but Pickett was getting the looks initially. Then
right?
and then they weren't letting him pass as much. And then Deontay Johnson complained that he was open every play. And so last game, Pickett basically got. I think he only got like one pass, and he didn't get it to like the fourth quarter. And Deontay Johnson got everything else, and he dropped the ones in the red zone. Um, so yeah, it's really it's been kind of like a I feel like it's a bunch of chickens fighting basically because he really just needs to go down there and pick the best matchup because he did that with Connor Hayward and it was a beautiful touchdown. You know, don't get into the red zone and be like, okay, I have to throw it to Deontay Johnson or else he's gonna be a little bitch about it. Like, no, if he's gonna be a little bitch, he's gonna be a little bitch whether he gets the ball or not. Let him fuck off.
Hmm.
But back to Neil's team, like I said, he has a very solid defense as well. He's a solid all around team. I don't. It doesn't jump off the page to me, but I could see him going deep into the playoffs with
Yeah, I have him in the top four.
it. I like
The
that.
thing, the thing that I'll say, and he's kind of bounced it out that he wants to play one of these weak teams in the first round, which may or may not work. I think it might work. Um, the thing that about Neil's team is he's kind of sat for a while. Okay, that's not a terrible thing. To sit on a good team and just say, hey, I'm going to move forward with this team. But I think the biggest thing going forward for Neil, because he's got the moves, he saved up these moves all year so he could have some moves here at the end. The biggest thing is going to be health. If his team can stay healthy throughout the playoffs, if he misses a Christian McCaffrey week, if he misses a Kenneth Walker the third week, if one of his quarterbacks is unhealthy, whether it be Daniel Jones, Tom Brady's probably going to play every game. DK Metcalf sits down, Jacoby Myers sits down. Like, if he has to fill in those spots, I worry about how Neil's team's going to move forward. Okay. I'm
Mm-hmm.
also worried about Tom Brady. I know he's facing New Orleans last week. I don't know if you watched that game.
No, I didn't.
He couldn't move the ball. I mean, he really struggled until the end of the game, until the
New
fourth quarter.
Orleans really has his number though.
They
No matter
do.
what, like
They
New
do.
Orleans could have it. They could be have 0 wins on the year and they'll beat Tom Brady for some reason. Like
Mhm.
they really their defense goes lights out against Tom Brady, and then Mike Evans gets into no fight with somebody. It's good football.
It's a surprise to me that every other team in the NFL doesn't watch New Orleans game tape and just say, "Hey, let's do that." I
Yeah.
think he kind of dissected him in the fourth quarter because they stopped running the ball and he threw it underneath, and that's kind of
Mm.
you know what got him. But you know, Tom Brady's schedule is really what Neil's depending on. Cincinnati in the first round ain't so juicy, if you know what I mean. They are eighth against the QB. It's not the greatest of matchups. And from there on out, he's pretty good. So if he can get past that first round, um, then I like Neil's chances. I don't like him as good as Michael's. I don't like him as good as Hedman's probably. If Hedman can get past that first round, I think Hedman's got a really good chance. But I do like Neil's chances to get to that Final Four because I think he's going to have a really easy uh, first round matchup. So I know he really wants that first championship. Oh, before we go on any further, how many? So we can kind of agree it's either me, Max, or Cause for that eighth seed. Everybody else is locked in. Okay. How many have-nots do we have? Michael,
Michael.
Neil, Brad, Clay.
Brad's not locked in.
Brad's locked in. Look at the points.
I was.
21-41.
I mean, I don't know. He's not locked in. I mean, until I
How
see
is he
that
not
little
locked
star
in?
there.
If he loses
He's
this
he,
week, he's 7-7. You need there's
James
nobody else
Garfield,
that can replace him.
James Garfield, or Professor if they score more than 141 points than him,
Max would have to score more than
like
100.
250 points. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So he's locked in. Clay's locked in because that's 100 points. He's only a couple points behind him. So if you're talking about it's just like this eighth seed that's really
Hmm.
unsettled. So we'll have four have nots and four people that have won the championship. Probably, unless Cause pulls off a miracle, and then it'll be 5-3. That's pretty exciting. At least half the people going into the playoffs will not have changed. That's good odds,
That
right?
is
Good
that
odds.
is that is that's good. It's very exciting. Definitely rooting
Good
for some
odds for
have-nots.
sure. You want to talk about UBAT?
Oh, let's talk about you bet.
UBAT.
You bet.
By the way, I'm drinking this red wine. It's Advent, one of those Advent calendars where you drink wine
Oh,
every day.
nice.
This is the eighth.
Oh,
It's really cheap. It's a Pinot Noir. Um,
there you
got a
go.
little bottle, but yeah,
Never
getting
actually
in the
done an
spirit.
advent calendar. I might do that maybe
Yeah, if
next
you
year.
ask Brad, do not piss off Advent, whatever that means. It says do not piss off Advent, so you got to follow it and drink it every day.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, you can't like
Can't
fuck
skip.
around and just open them all of them or something. Yeah,
Right,
yeah, you
can't
can't
skip.
skip. Yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah.
Talk about
But
Brad's
talking
team.
about Ubat,
You
yeah,
bet.
I mean he's got a solid team. He was like top two in our league for majority of the year. Just last couple of weeks, he's kind of fallen off a little bit. Um, it's I mean obviously led by Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, both solid with he's got Allen to Diggs connect stack and jack, which is fucking amazing. The rest of his team falls off a little bit from there. Adam Thielen's been okay. He's a little hit or miss. T. Higgins has been picking it up lately, but I do like Leonard Fournette for like a random touchdown, but he's more of a running back two than a running back one, and that's what he's using him as. Um, he does have Kamara, but yeah, Kamara really hasn't been himself for a while. So he's got a solid team, but like I said, it's very heavy on the front end, basically, with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. Like if they don't have a good game, the rest of his team is not going to be able to lift him up and win a game. So going into the colder weather, let me look at his Week 15 matchups real quick. Miami and at Tampa Bay. That's not terrible. Um, I could see him winning at least week one. I don't see him going much further than that, though, because I think he's going to hit a very solid team that's going to win on defense and, have two solid, like I said, he's got two solid guys up front, but past that, it's kind of crap.
I despise his running backs.
Yeah, they're like, I
Kamara
mean,
and
Leonard
Fournette.
Fournette's all right, and Kamara,
No, I mean,
like,
did you
they're
watch?
really
You
just
didn't watch
names.
this last game. They didn't play him. They played Rashard White.
Why didn't they
He's got
play
a
him?
foot injury. He's not 100%. Fournette's playing on a hobbled foot,
Mm,
and they're playing
yeah, it's
Rashard
not good
White as a
then.
running back one.
So he basically has no running backs then,
He's
because
it's an issue. I mean, Kamara is always good for one or two games a year. Hopefully, he gets that one in the playoffs. But again, he's also dependent because he's got those two stacking jacks, Burrow to
yeah,
Higgins and Allen to Diggs. If one of them has a bad game, he's cooked.
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's very uh, front heavy. Like if they don't have a huge game, nobody else on his team really has any chance of having a good game because they just don't have the potential even.
He's got a defense
Yeah,
full of dart throws too. It's just a bunch of guys that he's gathered
that
together throughout the weeks.
never hit.
Right. So they're all right, but
1 point, 3 points, 1 point.
he's just
Sad.
very, very buoyed by yeah, his team is super buoyed by Diggs and Allen's projections. That's why his
Yeah,
team's so high. He's getting 46 points, 47 points out of two players.
yeah,
So uh yeah, I mean we're gonna have to see. He really needs Allen and Diggs to like perform like they're supposed to throughout the playoffs, or I don't think he makes it out of the first round. I think he plays Clay and loses in the first round. And the person that we thought would win at the beginning of the year, somebody were like, this team is ridiculous. Got Allen Burrow and Diggs and Higgins. Literally could not build a team around those four, and it's going to fall apart. I mean, that's where the weakness shows. If you're going to have those four, you got to be more like Hedman. You got to have literally good players at every other spot, and he just doesn't have it.
He could have filled
Um,
in the rest of the spots with free agents, honestly.
and he should have, and he still can. How many moves? He got 4 moves. He should be like looking at these players and taking stabs like every single
Yeah.
day, but he's not. I did like, however, him picking up those 2 quarterbacks. I know he won't use them. It's like a defense mechanism, but Brock Purdy and Tyler Huntley, I mean, those are quarterbacks that maybe I want on my team. Maybe, somebody else might want throughout the playoffs. Um, I think that Tyler Huntley could be like a 20 plus point quarterback. I can almost guarantee that Tyler Huntley outscored one of his quarterbacks this week. Maybe not
I'm
Allen
sorry.
Robert.
I completely missed that Jimmy Garoppolo fractured his foot. That is
Yeah.
such a Jimmy Garoppolo thing to do. Like
Classic.
that's like is classic. It really is. That is so Jimmy.
hmm
Wow. Now you have to start Brock Purdy. That's hilarious.
Uh, Brock Purdy. Um, let's go Eternal Touchdown. This is
Oh,
year?
eternal touchdown. It, I mean, he's got a pretty solid team. Between Herbert and Murray, they could both put up a flurry of points. Um, they both can have a bit of a down week sometimes too, though. So he's got to hope that they have good matchups. I don't know how. See how Denver's defense is. In week one, Murray's at Denver. I don't necessarily love that for him, but
Yeah.
he's got Amar St. Brown. He's got Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. He's got pretty solid team. Even Ezekiel Elliott has been coming back a little stronger lately. Ramondre Stevenson's just solid guy, not huge RB1, but a solid RB2. Uh, I like Clay's team. I don't see any holes in his team. He's got a solid defense. Even I've got half of his defense was like on my watch list. Uh, he's. I don't see him being an easy out by any means. For being one of the lower teams, seeds going into the playoffs, he is definitely not an easy out. Even his tight end, George Kittle, could go off at any point. So I don't like you said. If he plays Brad week one, I could definitely see Eternal Touchdown winning that game.
That's what I'm
I,
saying.
I like I like his chances a lot because I mean if Murray or Herbert could go off for a 40 burger any week, but his team doesn't need them to go off for a 40 burger every week. He's got a solid team. I like it. I like his chances.
And I like even though you said about Kyler Murray in Denver, that's not a great matchup, but I like uh, his, uh, the rest of his week 15 matchups. If he can win
Mm-hmm.
that game, anything can happen. I really think that that's not a person you want to face week one of the playoffs. Not at all. And if it's a 4 or 5
No.
seed, then that's going to be a problem. So then you move on to the second week or the next week, and you hope that you can sneak one by him. But his team is balanced top to bottom. I would have said that his
Mm-hmm.
biggest weakness would have been RB2. But the past 3 weeks, Zeke and Rashad White have looked like animals. So his running back situation is actually really good now. I think he's done really well. I mean, I literally dropped trade bombs on him all year, trying to get Amon Ra that I gave up to him earlier this year, like an idiot, Amari Cooper or CeeDee Lamb. He wasn't budging at any point, and 2021 Clay would have budged multiple times. I mean, this guy is sticking with
Mm-hmm.
his guns and he's going forward, and it's worked out for him. I really like his team going forward, and it's going to be, I mean, not to mention his defense or his kicker. Like, I love Frankie Louvu, Max Crosby. I mean, those guys have
Mm-hmm.
produced every single week. And he said, "Hey, I'm the defensive whisperer." Jalen Petrie had a really good week last week against Cleveland. Who knows? This could be one of the league winners at safety. I'm afraid of Clay's team. I think that he could be a contender this year. Michael and Clay, those are 2 teams where I'm watching where I'm like, oh shit, like they could make runs for sure.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Sex Raptor, be honest. Where are we at?
Well, I mean, you're starting with Jalen Hurts. It's a great place to start with top three quarterback. You didn't have to give up anything for him, so that's a great way to start. Is a free top three quarterback right before you go into playoffs. Boom. That's write that down, people. Do that every year. You do that, and you'll be really good. Because I mean, if you didn't have him, if you were starting Deshaun Watson and Mike White, like I mean, I know Mike White came out and did 32 points first week, but he's not going to do that every week. I think the more he plays, the lower his point total goes because they just have more and more film on him, and he's at Buffalo next week. You're lucky that week one of playoffs it's versus Detroit. That's like your saving grace there.
I mean,
But
if I even make it, I'm not there.
I'm good. You're just about there, and you've got some
Uh,
good matchups this week. I could see it. I could see it because your wide receivers are pretty good. You have a nice stack of Jack, Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts. Um, I like Jameson Williams. He should come back pretty strong, but we'll see. Uh, the team
total
is
question mark.
I don't know. Well, I had him for a while. I had him on my bench on my IR spot for a
I
while.
know
I
you
think
did
he's.
because he's
They
super
say he's
talented.
supposed to be. Yeah, he's super talented. He's supposed to come back and be really good, and that'd be amazing. Um, Derrick Henry has been kind of hit or miss lately. Like if you look at his point totals, it's like 20, 13, 4, 27. Like you got to really hope that he doesn't have a bad week basically because once you pass Jalen Hurts, like your team doesn't have many uh kind of like dependable point scorers basically until you get to Derrick Henry. So you better hope that he doesn't have a bad point score. Because the rest of it, yes, you have a great defense, and I love your defense with Duran James and Minka Fitzpatrick and Micah Parsons and Alua Khan, even Justin Houston. You still need your offense to show up, and a lot of that's led by Jalen Hurts. So I think you're a little top heavy as well, kind of like I was saying about Brad's team. You're a little top heavy. You got some holes here because I mean, can you really depend on Brandon Cooks? Can you really depend on Jameson Williams? Not really. And you don't even have any
No,
other choices. Your other choice is Julio Jones, who is, I mean, a shell of his former self, if that. It might just be three dwarves in a big suit running around out there.
you think?
Like, I don't know, but
Mm,
because it doesn't look like Julio Jones, I think it might be dwarves in a suit.
definitely
So
has looked slow, so that would explain it.
yeah, if you don't get Jalen Hurts having one of his MVP like games and then have at least one or two other people pepper in a couple touchdowns, I don't think your defense has enough to carry you through the playoffs.
So, first of all, thank you for saying that my wide receivers are okay. They are dog shit. They are so bad.
I was trying to be nice because I wanted James Williams to come back and be good. And
Jameson Williams is a huge question
ah,
mark. Like, oh, okay, this guy's a superstar. Like,
he's supposed to be good, so good.
yeah, I know he's supposed to be so good, but he's gonna play behind the guys who have been producing. I mean, DJ Chark has had pretty productive weeks the last 2 weeks. Khalif Raymond and Reynolds have been on their team the whole year and have been producing. Amon St. Brown's are obviously the number one. If Jameson Williams is as good as they say he is, then he needs to be in the slot for like at least 30 snaps next week. If not, or this week, if not, then we got problems. I got problems. It's literally just rolling the dice. It's literally, what are you going to do, coach? You going to put him on the field? You're not going to put him on the field? I don't know. I have no idea. I know they're playing Minnesota, which is a pretty good matchup. So we'll see. Um, I need help in the wide receiver spot. I can't win with these wide receivers. So I've thought I have one move left. I'm thinking of, I got two balancing things in my mind, right? Uh, do I use a move to get Michael Gallup, who's had two really good weeks, has decent playoff matchups, has been somebody that's been targeted over and over, risk that they're not going to sign OBJ. I don't think they'll sign OBJ at this point, and have zero moves left going forward. Have balance at every position except for quarterbacks that I'd have to play Taysom at quarterback every single week. Do I do that, or do I save that last move for something if there's an emergency? I'm
They
thinking
are
fuck
about
it.
to sign OBJ. I'm
No,
just saying
they're
they are
not.
about to sign OBJ. They're about to do it.
You think so?
Why is he going to basketball games with Micah Parsons?
Because they're
And
friends. I don't
that's
know.
just
I think the
friends.
players want him to sign him, but they're like, your knee's not that great. I think that we're past
Your
that
knee
point.
is garbage.
Yeah, I think we're
Um,
past that point.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's got some good matchups in Houston and Jacksonville. I would go ahead and use it because if you don't win week one, then what are you saving it for?
If I don't win this week, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. If you don't win this week, I would go ahead and do it because your wide receivers are quite garbage. Between
They are just doo
Jamison
doo.
Williams and Brandon Cooks, that could be two goose eggs you're looking at.
Yeah.
Yeah, that you go in with two goose eggs.
Yeah. And it's really rough too. Oh God. Well,
Because
yeah, I mean, you're
because
probably right. I hate to sit here and be like, whatever, but I'm gonna drop this guy. Oh, that was rough.
oh wow, dropped
Yep,
Julio Jones.
that's my
Never thought
team
I'd
now.
see the day.
Yep, 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 yep. I had to do it. I had to do it. Had to put up a fight this week, and we'll see if I can actually do it. But no moves. This is my team going forward. If Mike White gets hurt, Taysom, get in there. You're my new quarterback too. Mike
Get
White
in
gets
there.
benched. Yeah, I mean, I did my best. I did my best.
Yeah,
Anyway, uh, it'll be a fun matchup. This is why we play fantasy football, right?
this is
Tonight,
why we do
tonight's
it.
game, me versus
Yeah.
Max. Max has three people playing. He's got Derek Carr, he's got Bobby Wagner, and he's got Cam Akers. Three of the biggest players in the game. This is like a lot of his week. I'm sitting there watching with no people, hoping this game ends 0-0, and there's a earthquake that hits the field and they can't play this week. Like this is big time, big time, big time.
Big
But
time.
but getting that you have used all 30 moves allowed in this league is not what I wanted to see right now. Yikes.
Yeah, it's a scary feeling.
It's okay. It's okay. I know you're there with me, and you could talk with
Oh
Dave.
yeah.
Okay. Let's go to Max's team. What do you think of Max this year? I think he's really under appreciated.
I agree. He's got a pretty solid team when you look at it all around. I mean, Derek Carr has been pretty good all year, other than the one game again at New Orleans. He's been very solid quarterback. Kirk Cousins has been as well. Um, Keenan Allen finally came back looking like his former self. DeAndre Hopkins came back off of his suspension strong. I mean, he's got a pretty solid uh, starting five right there. There's quarterbacks and wide receivers. His running backs fall off a little bit with Latavius Murray and Cam Akers. Cam Akers, if he can come back and out of the game like he had last week, then James and then Max's team could be really good. But I don't think that's something you can depend on. He does have David Montgomery. He
Oh, you're a
be all
big
right. Oh, and
Montgomery
Jonathan
guy.
Taylor.
You're a
I
big
love
Montgomery
David
guy.
Montgomery. I think he's really good. I think he's really
Yeah.
good. He's just stuck in Chicago, and anybody stuck in Chicago is just you're just like a bunch of retards trying to hump a doorknob,
Ooh.
watching them play offense. But uh, no, between Jonathan Taylor and David Montgomery, between those four, like he had really good running backs. He has a really solid offense then
It's got
between
to be
those
really
guys.
frustrating for him because you think it's a really solid offense.
It's
Max has really not put up that many points.
I know, but I
It's
mean,
it's really
everybody I
it's
just
really
said
good on
it
paper.
looks great. It looks great
Right.
on paper. You know, it
Yeah.
must be communism or something. It only looks good on paper. Um,
I mean, Jerry Judy has had a very inconsistent year.
yeah.
And so Keenan Allen didn't really play until 2 weeks ago. He's played really well since then, but he really hasn't played until 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Uh,
So I mean, you got to
here's
understand that throughout the year, he's had this
here's his
all-star team
here's
that,
his problem. He doesn't know how to field a defense. Look at his
yeah,
defense. This
ooh,
is bad. This is all droppable, other than Bobby Wagner and Yard. This is all droppable. Look at us. I mean, you want some of them to do well, like I guess maybe because of their names, but even Bjard has been droppable this year. This is why he's fielding a completely droppable defense. Bobby
I like
Wagner's the only one worth holding on to. That's it.
I like Holland.
That's why he's had issues. He has a solid offense. He's one of our teams in our league, and you should be ashamed to call him your brother. You say it
Oh
all day.
my
Defense wins
gosh.
championships, and he's
Defense
over
does win
here fielding
championships.
one of the worst defenses in the league. Maybe not all year, but if he's going into the playoffs or trying to go into the playoffs with this, that ain't gonna cut it,
I don't think it's that bad.
man.
I don't
Look at
think
the
it's
point totals. Nothing 4, 6, 4. Like I said, Bobby Wagner is good. 3, 9, 0, 0, 0, 1, 5, 6, 1.5, 6, 4.5, 1.5. This is all crap. This is all crap, man. And
I
this
think
isn't
his
just like it's all year. Keanu Neal hasn't gotten double digits the entire year. Why would you field him? Send him home.
he's filling in for Antoine Winfield Jr. He's playing that
Who is
position.
also complete crap.
So he can
6,
guarantee that
four
he
and a
plays.
half, 2.5, 9.5, and multiple zeros. Not dependable.
I know. Yeah, I mean, he's got some issues. He's definitely got some issues, but
His offense
uh
looks great. Got to fix up that
yeah.
back end though.
I think this is like the most underperforming team. He had Darren Waller earlier that didn't really pan out. He's had some other receivers that just didn't really pan out. He's tried to trade some people around to get Derek Carr is really not the quarterback that you think he is. He's just not. He's not a good quarterback. He's not a
You
good fantasy
expect more
quarterback.
out of him because of his weapons in front of him. You're like, he's got to be good, right?
He's like his highest total was 2 weeks ago against Seattle when he put up 26.75. Like he doesn't hit 30 points. He's probably gonna hit 40 or 50 tonight because he's an asshole and I need him to suck.
I wouldn't bet on a Thursday night game him doing crazy good. I
All
wouldn't
right.
bet on it.
I against the Rams, I hope so. Oh God, I hope so. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Professor. Let's talk about the professor.
Oh, the professor. He's
Ah,
another one of
professor.
those people that everybody looked right and he looked left on Geno Smith there.
Yeah.
Really thought he was not going to be good this year, but never underestimate the chip on the shoulder, man. Never underestimate the chip.
Yeah, everybody gives him shit for being a rookie, but it's obviously not a rookie.
No, no, not at all. But I
Doesn't
mean,
make rookie moves.
no, he doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, between Gino and Ryan Tannehill at the top, both just Gino's been a QB1 this year, which has been crazy. Ryan Tannehill hasn't lost his job, which is saying a lot more than most this year. Justin Jefferson has been great. Debo obviously hasn't been what he was last year, but he still hits double digit points fairly often. And I thought Gabe Davis had a little bit better year this year. Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just put up 30 against Pittsburgh, but everybody else he puts up one fucking point. What a dick. What a fucking bitch. Seriously, look at his point totals. He doesn't do jack shit all fucking year in Pittsburgh. He's like, oh, I would know how to play football. You fucking dick. Nick Chubb, though, and DeAndre Swift at running back, I think those are both solid choices. He's got a decent team. He really didn't ever put together a very good defense. I think kind of like Max, he missed out on a lot of points there. Yeah, most of them are droppable here. Yeah, that's what I figured. They're all droppable. Rashawn Evans is about the only guy worth keeping. That's about it. Got a good team, just not good enough to make it to the playoffs here. Uh, like I said, I wouldn't have hold on to Debo. I would try to trade Debo at some point.
I really
It's an
honestly
okay
think
team.
he's had
It's an okay
uh
team.
QB2 problems all year. And you know, it's one thing to draft quarterbacks high, which he didn't do. I mean, he was the lowest ranked quarterback person on before the draft, and he waited long enough. He'd stacked his team with receivers and had a few running backs and whatnot. Um, but if you have a quarterback too that just doesn't perform, not even mediocrely, mediocre, just does not perform at all, then you're going to struggle. And so he struggled. He struggled with
Yeah.
that. He struggled with injuries. People in and out of the lineup. He struggled with that Detroit running back situation. You can't guess who's going to score in that
Yeah.
Detroit running back situation. Jamal Williams, I mean, you'd have better luck trading away Chubb, getting a better quarterback, and playing Swift and Williams both at the same time. And it's kind of been a struggle for him. He's been a decent team,
Yeah, it's a
top to
decent
bottom.
team.
You got Jefferson, who may be the best receiver in the league, and he's playing Detroit this week. He's gonna put up some damn good points. I wouldn't count Cause not making the playoffs. So he's got to score 25 more points than Max, and Max and him both have to win. This team could make the playoffs, and if he does make the playoffs, then he could put up noise against Hedman for sure. But yeah, no, he's got defensive problems for sure. That he's got to fix. This guy got moves. I think he's got moves. He's got 3 moves. I think he's gonna use a move for a defensive guy. I know he's been looking at that. Um, but yeah, I mean, we'll just have to see. I mean, he's Professor is a good opponent. I mean, he's put up some good numbers this
Hmm.
year, and
Yeah.
and I like what he's done, and hopefully he has a shot this year. Good luck this week, Professor, for sure.
Good luck.
Let's talk about Camacho. Camacho has had to him what he has described as the most frustrating year that he's ever had in fantasy. Tell me about Camacho's team.
Well, it's a bit unrecognizable, honestly, because if you
Right.
look at the team he drafted versus the team he has right now, I don't see anybody still on there. I think it's literally a completely new team.
21 trades this
So
year. He's had 21 trades.
yeah, that sounds about right. But I mean, if you look at he started with Dak Prescott, Joe Burrow, and Austin Eckler. None of them are on his team. And if you look at his team right now, it's Davis Mills, Bryce Perkins, and Najee, basically.
Oh,
Um,
Reek.
he's got Reek, yeah. No, I just meant the quarterback, running back situation though. But yeah, he's got Reek there. He mentioned the other day that he's gone through 11 quarterback changes this year, and as someone that's gone through 8, it sucks every week. Every single week, you're just sitting there dissecting, taking off the best parts of your team just to try to fill a roster, basically. And on top of that, you're maybe trying to enjoy your Sunday or something. And meanwhile, John is snaking your backup quarterback, and you're just like, I just wanted to have lunch with my wife for a minute, or something. Like, I didn't want to have to worry about having to pick up fucking Bryce Perkins or some crap like that.
Yeah.
So nobody wants to have to worry about that. So I understand. He's had a rough year. Um, it happens to all of us at some point.
Uh, I think that's kind of his own fault. I'm not gonna hate on him. I'm not gonna, but when you
It's a
trade for
little
Matt
hate. That's
Stafford,
that's kind of that's it. I mean, you're starting with a lot of hate.
he
So
traded for Matt
let's just
Stafford
just
with
say
that.
you're starting up here.
Yeah. He
Oh,
traded for,
the Stafford trade. Yeah, and we
he
all
traded
kind
for
of
Matt
told him don't
Stafford
do
with
it.
a bum elbow. He traded Dak for Matt Stafford with a
That's
bum elbow.
that's what I was going to ask was where were the trades for Dak, Burrow, and Eckler? Because those three guys gone are huge pillars to your team and are pillars on other people's teams now. So like, and the other people that have those players are going into the playoffs. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is a tale of two teams here, really.
Let's see. He traded away, well, it's Barkley Allen for Reek. That was actually not a terrible trade. Um, he actually had Justin Fields at one time. I mean, he's gone in circles here, but the Dak Prescott for Boyd and Stafford back in early October, you just can't have that kind of allegiance to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Especially when the medical records are out there. Like it was just a matter of time that they're going to have to like put him on the shelf, basically.
right. He
It
traded
sound it
Jones
sounds
and
like sounds like he started playing musical chairs but never found a chair. He just kept going in circles, just kept trading.
right. He never really sat down and let people
Yeah,
settle in.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
he just kind of was searching for that that one week.
Elusive.
It's like when you keep throwing bets and you're just trying to find that one streak to get you going so you make all your money back. You never really did, and it was just one losing week after another. Um, it's rough. It's a frustrating season when you do that, when you trade for somebody they get hurt, you trade for somebody they underperform. That sucks. And I think that he did that a lot this year, and it's unfortunate for him. It's kind of rough. So, it sucks that he's eliminated from the playoffs, but you know, always next year and he'll have a high pick, right?
Yeah, yeah, and he avoided last place, which is nice.
He did. Unicycle polar bears. Let me know.
It was
What do you think? What did he do wrong? Why is he 5-8?
because he kept leaving the chat like a little bitch. Oh, sorry. Whoa, sorry. My bad.
Oh,
I guess we can keep it to fantasy football here, but honestly, if he doesn't care to be in this league, I don't care to talk about his team. So
all right. Well, I will say that his reluctance to move Dalvin Cook, Devontae Adams cost him his season. I think his reluctance to trade overall and let go of some of his pillars cost him his season. There is what we just talked about, Chase, where we say that, his team was never settled in and he traded way too much and he musical chairs. Polar Bears had two trades all year.
that's terrible.
That's not good for a team that's struggling, right? So
No,
when you get to that stretch run, you've got to negotiate with people. You got to say, hey, you're good here. I'm good here. Let's make both of our teams better. That's what trading does. You're not there to rip somebody off. You're not there to get ripped off. That's not what it's about. It's not, no one's going to try to slit your throat or whatever. Come back and say, hey, I'm good here. You're good here. Let's make both our teams better. Let's both make the playoffs. That's how trades are done. Okay. Um, didn't do
you
that.
obviously haven't traded the John very much.
Well, John didn't make that many trades, right? So it's just one of those things where it's like you have to say, hey, listen, you need this. This will cover your bye week. This is whatever. I'm giving a little here. You give a little there. Let's make a trade. Negotiate. But you cannot, and I repeat this, you cannot by any means say, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to trade with you. I don't care what kind of deal you're giving me. I'm not going to. And I feel like he did that to multiple players in this league saying, I'm just going to ride out my team no matter what. Can't win like that. Can't win like
It's
that.
not a very good team to start with.
Right. They can't win like that. So, um, yeah, hopefully he has a better year next year, but we'll just have to see. Rumham. Rumham.
Oh, Rumham.
Have you ever seen so many injuries on a team?
He did go through a lot. That is
A
very true.
lot. A lot of bad injuries.
Yeah.
A few notable ones in Javonte Williams, Trey Lance. If you look at his draft,
Did he have
those
Kyle Pitts
two,
too? Didn't he have Kyle Pitts?
he had Kyle Pitts for a long time,
Yeah.
and he was reluctant
Waiting
to
for
give
him to
him
do
up.
something, and then eventually just got hurt.
Right. And then, well, I mean, he traded him around and he did get actually a good deal out of that. Um, but if you look at Rumham's team, uh, Trey Lance was number one pick. You lose your number one pick, you're going
Yeah.
to struggle.
Yeah.
He traded for Javonte Williams. He traded Saquon Barkley. So he traded his second pick. Okay. So your first two picks get injured. I mean, he just got eaten alive by injuries. There wasn't a lot he could do. And, he did not fill in correctly after that. I just think it's a bum year. You're gonna have
Yeah.
those. You're gonna have those injuries, and it's up to you how do you react to them. And it was just too big of a hole for him to climb out of. Not only that, but I know he's been preaching that all year, but 2,216 points is almost the best person in our league. His points against are 2,216 points. That means he almost faced Hedman every week.
Yeah.
That's kind of rough. Um, when you're doing that, it's just there's not much else to say, Trevor. We feel
Uh,
bad for your
I
team,
will
and
say, I will say, if you look at his draft, He went QB, RB, RB, tight end, QB. So, and his first QB took was Trey Lance, obviously, and got hurt, was out.
in like
So,
the first game and a half.
yeah, exactly. So he almost went basically Michael's strategy of going running back to start. That's just it's just never a good strategy in our league. It's just not.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Let's talk about Darth Scott,
Oh boy,
the
I'll let you
last
start on
one.
this one.
All right. Listen, you're 3-3 in your last six, and some of these you beat me. Some of these most important games you actually took down. Um, really, honestly, I don't think your team was that bad. From the
It
from the
wasn't that good
jump,
either, though.
I think that you just kind of had some issues, some problems. For a long time, you had Panthers.
Yeah, that
You
was
depended
bad.
on the Panthers for more than half the season, and the Panthers have struggled real bad on offense. Um, you've had running back problems pretty much all year, except for Josh Jacobs, who carried you most of the year. It's just one of those unfortunate years where you just can't get it all together. TJ Watt was out most of the year. That was a lot of your defense. But what I will say is you've kind of been a defensive whisper. Tariq Woolen is somebody that you'll probably look at in the defense spot year after year after year. So, proud of you for that on that end. Listen, I don't think you're the worst team. I really honestly think if circumstances were different, that Cameron's team would be worse. That this injury team with Trevor's team would be worse. I really honestly think you got dealt a bad hand. 1,757 points is not very much, obviously, for a year.
No, no, not
Um,
going to cut it.
but you have a chance to finish strong. Okay, this weekend, Cisco Lemonade, you have a chance to finish strong. You guys are evened out in projections almost, and he's got kind of a struggling team. So there's a chance that you might not get last, that you get second to last. But you tell me why you think you failed this year.
Just starting the draft, um, I didn't really didn't like any of the players I took. Kirk Cousins as your first pick is never very good. I took Najee as my second pick, and he had his hurt foot to begin with. I traded him away, didn't get really that much for him. Matt Ryan is my next quarterback, who really didn't even have his job for that long, and probably should have lost it before then, anyways. Um, really just didn't have a very good draft, honestly. I feel like a lot of the players that I have on my team now were through trade or free agent pickups. So really, I feel like I had a late round pick in draft, and I honestly really don't like those. So I think if anything, if I hadn't put those again, I might just trade out of that because I like starting QB. And when you get your first QB at the end of the first round, you're just sitting there going, "Ugh, this guy sucks. I guess I'll take him." Basically,
Right.
so it's never a good feeling. Basically, um, yeah, it was just tough year. I mean, I started 8 different quarterbacks as well, so I had to deal with a lot of vultures and stuff. John snaking my backup quarterbacks, things like that. So definitely a rough year. Looking forward to the next one.
Okay. I'm excited for your next one too. It seems like, fresh starts are good for everybody. Next year you'll be somebody in the lottery, somewhere in the lottery, picking one of these top six players. Um, so yeah, there's always another year. But Scott, it's always nice to talk to you. Always nice to get your thoughts on some of these teams and get a rundown and kind of fill those complaints about people not talking about their teams. Nobody can complain because we talked about every one of your fucking teams. Um,
Cameron might complain because I didn't talk about his team. Hold on, let me talk shit about his team real quick.
all right.
I mean, if you draft Russell Wilson at the beginning of the year, I get it. At the beginning of the year, you're like, all right, great. But then after like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, any amount of weeks of watching him play football, it was fucking like putting glass in your eyes. You could have traded him to Trevor at any point in the year and gotten a big return. He decided not to. That was stupid. Devontae Adams, you were expecting him to do great things. It took him a little while. He started doing great things. But after that, he has no wide receivers. Marquise Brown has been out for forever. Terrace Marshall Jr. Who the fuck even are you? Like he picked up Claypool, I think 3 times and dropped him, and re-picked him back up, thinking, "Oh, this is the moment. This is going to be when he's going to be really good." No, there's no moment like that. He went to Chicago and got worse, and you picked him up again. That's so bad. That's terrible, terrible decision making. So yeah, this is not a playoff team. It's not very good. His defense is okay. I'll give him that, and that's because I'm looking at Roquan. Oh, Jack Sanborn's pretty good. He's got pretty decent defense. I'll give him that. But the offense has been, it's abysmal.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook hasn't been, he's just basically a shell of what he used to be, hit or miss. He's got a couple good games, but he's very hit or miss, not enough to depend on. And Miles Sanders is basically the same thing because Jalen Hurts takes a lot of rushing touchdowns. All right, now we're done.
Now we're done. Now we're done. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for listening this week, and we will be back next week to talk about playoffs, to talk about the NFL, and talk about our feelings. We'll see you guys then. Later.
Bye, guys.